Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a replay broadcast here on Basetradetv. This is Rifkin, and joining me today is Zeph. Zeph, let's introduce these players.
Up here in the top left-hand corner of Star Station, we have the red Zerg, EGMachine.
And his opponent in the top right, well, there's a little bit of banter going on. Spawning blue and playing for Root, it is Fitzy. I gotta say, I get so gushy about this, and it's probably the stupidest thing for any caster to obsess over, but I love when players have that sort of friendly banter at the start of a game. So it's, okay, no matter how the game goes, there's not going to be any hard feelings to follow it up.
Yeah, for sure, and it's definitely a nice attitude to have going into a game, They're not your absolute enemy that you want to slaughter horribly.
Well, that's how it feels.
It's all fun games.
You catch these guys on stream, and some of them are just so ruthless and cutthroat, and just automatically ignore each other so they don't get distracted, stuff like that. But EGMachine, I'm gonna give him a bit of a shout out here. He has been a monster lately. I mean, he's always been a streamer, but every time I catch him streaming, he's only been around like 300 viewers. Last couple days, I don't know what it is. This guy's been in the thousands, so more power to him.
Yeah, definitely. He is one of the strongest Zergs that I've known since I've come into the scene. He's always been a name that's stuck up there, and it's really great to see him getting that sort of attention now, because he certainly deserves it. Now, ROOTFitzy, on the other hand, is someone I haven't heard as much about, to be honest. So, do you have anything you could tell me about him?
Not off the top of my head. I have to go look Wikipedia, but I will say the fact that he's on Root pretty much speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Root has got some sick players now, actually.
Actually, I gotta say, one of my most favorite Root players, at least of recent, I'm not saying he's the best by any means of the team, but I really am enjoying watching Vibe play. Just not to take any attention away from Fitzy, but just to show you, if you want to find some really good Starcraft players, root for Root and all that.
Vibe is one of the best NA players in my opinion. But I'm sure, ROOTFitzy's on the same team. These guys must practice together, so he must be a pretty big monster in terms of all his matchups. And this is a ZvZ that we've got going on here, so it'll be really interesting to see how these players fare against each other.
Yeah, now, I always kind of make this joke at the start of a ZvZ, will it boil down to Mutalisk versus Mutalisk or not? But I have to say, in recent months, or not months, sorry, because HOTS has barely been out for months. In recent days, I've actually had the pleasure of seeing a lot of people kind of skip the Muta phase or find alternate strategies to get around it.
Wow, that's very interesting. I've kind of been off the scene for a little bit, focusing on my studies, so I haven't actually seen too much different from Muta versus Muta. And recently, I suppose the one tournament I really followed in recent times was the ACL here in Australia, and it was still the same old story, Muta versus Muta every game if it got to Lair-Tech. So it's kind of disappointing to see that, but what you just said gives me hope, because I certainly hope that the ZvZ metagame doesn't end up staying that way.
Well, if we can, we should probably take a second to give an acknowledgement and shout out to the ACL, because I gotta say, that was some amazing level production. You wouldn't have, for Australia to have such a small scene as it is, you wouldn't have expected such a big event to come out of it.
Yeah, for sure. We're growing very quickly. We had about 700 viewers for the ACL, which is probably the most we've had for any event in the longest time ever. Certainly the most we've ever had for a LAN event, bar WCS. So it's really great to see the scene down there growing. But actually, we should probably have a bit of a look-see at what's going on in this game real quick.
So I don't know if this is going to be defensive or not, but I'm kind of hoping for some early game aggression, because I love me some scrappy Zerg fights, Zeph.
You and me both. I adore watching Link Bane fights, and the test of each player's micro when they're in that sort of high pressure, high speed situation. So yeah, it'll be interesting indeed to see if it is in fact going to be defensive baneling nest, or if they're going to be aggressive, because it's very common still for Zergs to pump out a few lings here and there and just go for an attack and see if they can catch their opponent off guard.
Well, of course, you talk about catching people off guard. One of the biggest things about this matchup, though, is the Overlord Highway, which we have situated here for both players. They have absolute vision of everything coming across the field, and it's kind of jokingly map hacks, but the reality is it's huge scouting information. No other matchup are you afforded this opportunity to see exactly everything your opponent's doing or sending out to you for pretty much the entirety of the first half of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Machine has actually managed to sneak a Ling into the natural and main of Fitzy here, so he's had a good look at what's going on. He's seen the lair timing more or less, and Machine is well on his way to his own lair. And this is actually a very short rush distance on this map. I always forget how close it actually is.
Yeah, a lot of people are having trouble with the horizontal spawns on Star Station. Not that vertical is too much better. This is a map that, in my eyes, really needs to be set to cross only.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that one because that is actually a tiny rush distance. I can imagine some sort of 10 pull antics. While it can be held by hatch first or 15 pull or whatever, it would be like 10 times more difficult in this sort of situation. But anyway, we do have the spy going down for Machine first. The lair for Fitzy is just going to finish up now, so I suppose we'll see if he is also going to drop that spire, but it's looking very likely at this point.
Yeah, the thing about the Spire too is it's not just about getting the Mutalisks out first, but it's about making sure you control them in the early game. Because if you're the first one to clean up your opponent's overlords, you get that small chance you're going to supply block them, and that hurts. Because it doesn't matter whether you've got 1,000 gas banked or not. If you can't make Mutalisks, you're going to be hurting.
Yeah, for sure. And on the other front, you don't want to be too mineral starved either, because as we can see right now, EGMachine is just pumping out 22 lings plus the ones that he already had out. So he's going for some serious aggression towards Fitzy's base. He may actually be able to get it to cancel on the third there, and that'll be absolutely wondrous for EGMachine if he can do that or do some serious damage, because it means more mutas for him with his own third up and much less for Fitzy.
Well, I love having the Zerglings out too, because let's not forget how important and quite frankly critical they are for buffering with the Mutalisks in those giant fights. So by having this many Zerglings out now, they'll have the extra lava later to still spin on Mutalisks without having to worry about creating that underground glaive soaking team, I guess. And wow, bailing hits, even when they're not effective, still look goddamn beautiful. Look at that.
Look at that control by both players. Really great moves here, but EGMachine does have slightly more left over. More,
He's gonna force it canceled, no question about it.
He's gonna get that hatchery for sure, and more spines are on the way for Fitzy, but they're not gonna do him much good right now. And he has indeed got his spire. It is finishing up now, but EGMachine already got 9 meters on the way.
Yeah, by having his third base up and running with the extra 2 geysers, this is going to set him so far ahead of his opponent. He's even got the armor on the way. This is looking really good for Machine, at least for starting off, but with the infestation pick coming out of Fitzy and 3 spore crawlers, he might be able to turn this around in an engagement.
That's really interesting. The infestation pit really indicates to me a more defensive play, which is something we just really don't see people try anymore. It used to be the old roach infest, you kind of have to turtle up, use those spores. But since the mutas have been buffed, it just hasn't worked out so well, so I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, with the spore crawlers positioned the way they are actually quite nicely, and this, like, I guess you'd call it a Congress of Queens, like, in the middle of the base here. I mean, he's set up very nicely to deal with some low Mutalisk numbers. It's not until Machine snowballs to that, 20 plus number that he's really going to be able to get in here and do any concrete damage. However, again, by having lots of Mutalisks on the field, right now, giving him absolute map control, but Fitzy with pathogen glands on the way. You talk about taking a defensive fight. It doesn't matter where you engage the Mutalisks, if you can catch all of them in a fungal, you're going to win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a pretty ballsy move because he's got to survive the massive amounts of mutaling from EGMachine until he can actually get those infestors out and really go head to head with that army and make him be a lot more cautious with how he engages. But you made a good point. I mean, Machine can't really get in there just yet. So the big deal for me right now is the third base here.
He's got to be careful. Fitzy does not want to take a fight here. Not with the Queen, not with the Mutalisk numbers. Oh, Machine almost sniping one of the Mutalisks, but not quite. I want to point out, Machine is actually almost 10 workers ahead of Fitzy at this point. Not something you too often see, but I think a lot of that stems from the fact that Fitzy has his third so heavily delayed. I mean, he's long distance mining gas. Talk about desperation. 5 queens as well. Oh my goodness.
That's pretty crazy stuff. And I mean, Machine pumping out that gas, it's going to work wonders for him. And it looks like Fitzy will actually be able to secure this base, but I mean, the gas count's so important, especially when he's gotten some mutas and he's trying to pump out infestors at the same time. But that said, though, there are already 5 infestors out on the field.
Yeah, and looking at this, I mean, all it takes is one good fungal. I mean, Mutalisks clump up so easily. We've seen it time and time again. And Machine actually taking some worker harass here, as is natural. Fitzy gonna get away with a couple free drone kills there, but still not enough. I mean, it's Machine. Okay, actually, they've pretty much evened out in worker kill, but yeah. Machine, I gotta say, like, I feel with some good micro and not fighting in Fitzy's natural, will take a really good fight because these, again, you can out micro fungal, you can out micro infestors, but he's got to be careful.
Well, you know what? Until this point in the game, EGMachine didn't actually know about the infestors out on the field right now. So This is the first he knows about it, so now he actually
Oh
knows
my
to be a little
god.
bit more careful with how he maneuvers his mutas around the base of ROOTFitzy.
We're gonna have Rifkin's dream engagement coming because we got mass amounts of queens from one player, mass amounts of queens from the other, and tons of mutalisks. And look at this spread from Machine coming here in the southern part of the
Wow.
map. I mean, he's just getting ready to hit that third base hard. Meanwhile,
That's
Queen's kind
pretty
of
awesome.
realizing, oh, that's right, we're off creep in the middle of the map, being chased by Fitzy's Queens, who are also like, oh yeah, we're off creep in the middle of the map.
Oh wow, and we have a muta split from Machine. He's
Oh,
picking
he's gonna
off the
pick off the
infestors in the
infestors.
background.
They get a fungal off, but doesn't cover much. But most of the infestors have gone down at this point, and Fitzy and Machine are both spread so
Oh,
desperately
dear.
across the map. But Machine, without those infestors to worry about, can take a really nice engage. Beautiful transfuses coming out of Fitzy, but it's just not enough. Machine with
Yeah.
so many mutalisks, 28 flocking in. Zeph, this is getting crazy.
Oh my goodness, this could have looked so different if he had have just held on to those infestors, but unfortunately they got picked off very nicely by Machine, and there's just too many mutas out here.
Yeah, Sportcrawler desperately trying to build. Even Queen's coming back across the field for round 2. And Machine just looking so darn good, even transfusing his own Mutalisk for good measure, and that's a GG. Before I leave this, 30 Mutalisks at the ends up. That is ridiculous.
That is a huge amount, absolutely.
Alright guys, well thanks for watching the game. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave any feedback in the description down below, but other than that, have a great day.